Well, over the course of the Brexit process here at Sky News, we have followed every twist and turn. So has Jonathan Pie, a frustrated and fictitious news reporter who provides a more satirical look at the day's events. His coverage of Brexit, as well as the Trump presidency and HS2, has struck a chord with online viewers, though one of his reports has been viewed 150 million times.
Right, I'm going to stand on here. Right, you need to shoot from here and get down here. Hold it steady and get the train tracks. I love Extinction Rebellion, but if they shut down Heathrow Airport with their drones and ruin my holiday to Torremolinos, I swear to God, I'm going to double my meat intake and consume more bottled water than I actually need. Then I'm just going to walk down here, talk a bit about jobs. All right, let's go for it. Another big winner from HS2 is jobs. Chinese jobs. How long? OK, let me just try and get my head around this. Through direct democracy, we're taking back control of our parliamentary democracy, but to do that, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is suspending Parliament. So, we're in a position where Leavers are shouting that if Parliament tries to stop a no-deal Brexit, it would be undemocratic, and Remainers are shouting that to not allow them to do just that is undemocratic, which I think is all very positive.
The mastermind behind Jonathan Pie is comedian and actor Tom Walker. He's been described by Ricky Gervais as brilliant, brave and analytical without forgetting to be funny. And he joins me now. Tom, hello to you.
Hello.
Thanks very much.
How are you doing?
Here. Very good, thank you. I know a lot of my colleagues who'd love to be able to have a rant in the way that Jonathan Pie does. Looking at the way we are at the moment, the current political discourse, is your material almost writing itself?
It's kind of weird sometimes. With regards to Trump, everyone thinks that he's really easy to write for, and actually he isn't, because he does it himself, you know? Sometimes...
So you've got to take it to the next level.
You kind of do, actually. I mean, sometimes with Trump, all you have to do is just read out his tweet and go look at that, and it kind of does it for you. So sometimes it can be kind of tough. What's happening now is really interesting. You know, over the last... Since Boris has gone in there, we really are kind of taking a look at, I mean, literally how our country works. Like, what is our constitution? What is our constitutional monarchy? And that's being challenged on a daily basis, not just by our present Prime Minister, but, as you've just seen, by our previous Prime Ministers as well. So the good thing with that, with what I do, is every week I can kind of take a look at what's going on and have a satirical bent on it. When I take him on tour, what's difficult about writing something that I'm taking on tour on a live show is, you know, how do I future-proof it?
Yeah.
That's the real problem for a political satirist.
And you've got a big problem, because the timing of this tour,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good in terms of material, but in terms of the rewrites, because your tour spans October the 31st, the date on which we are meant to be leaving the European Union.
Yeah, I mean, the first tour I ever did, I started the tour with David Cameron firmly in place in number 10.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was, you know, come on, he was a joke candidate. And Brexit, we'd kind of spoken about it, but we all knew the way that was going to go, didn't we? By the time that tour finished, Theresa May was in number 10, Donald Trump was in the White House, and we were leaving the EU.
So all that work, those finely honed jokes, those scripts that you've written, out the window.
Now, I'm kind of a self-confessed lefty, so I'm not a big fan of Boris Johnson, but I never thought I'd say this. Please, Boris, can you stay in number 10 till December the 2nd, until the tour's over?
That's when you wrap.
Yeah, that's when I wrap. And then, you know, he's more than welcome to leave. But it's a tough one. But, hey, it's an extraordinary time to be a political satirist. And, you know, I kind of hit the zeitgeist right at the right moment. The way I see it is the more complex and weird and worse the world gets, the better my career does. So, you know, it's not all bad.
Yeah, you describe yourself as a self-confessed lefty. What about Jonathan Pie? Where does he sit politically?
Oh, he's very much a lefty like me. We're very, very similar. I think what I managed to do with Pie, though, is not just have a go at the easy targets, which are, you know, comedy and satire. It's normally left-leaning. It's quite easy when you've got a Tory government to do sort of satire in that respect. But what I try and do with Pie is also take a look at the excesses of the left, the excesses of that kind of identity politics and the PC culture, because I think left-wing politics, as I say in my new show, or as he says in the new show, being left-wing used to be a working-class necessity. It's kind of become a middle-class hobby now, you know what I mean? So I think he can take the mickey out of that, as well as, you know, pointing his machine guns at Boris and Trump and the right as well as the left, you know.
Your online material goes viral. We talked about one of those clips that had 150 million views.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you yourself have described social media as being a cesspool, and actually this week we've seen it really coming to the fore with attacks on journalists. Laura Kunsberg from the BBC, for example. We've had Gareth Thomas talking about the media. We've had Ben Stokes. When you post that material online, how conscious are you about the kind of backlash, the response you're going to get?
It has taken me a long time to not take it personally. I tell you, I mean, it's very similar to actually performing live on stage. When you're performing live on stage, and let's say you've got 500, 1,000 people in front of you, and they're all laughing and they're all applauding, the only person you can see as a performer is the one person sat there like that. And it's very similar online. You know, you can have 1,000 thumbs up and 1,000 smiley faces, and it's the 2 thumbs down, and it's the nastiness that you take home with you. And I do have to say that it has affected me, certainly when it's kind of people with a blue tick who you know, certain comedians have attacked me because I'm not their politics, and I found that very, very hard. But then when you get to go on tour and I get to write a solid piece of an hour's work, I can take that with me. So I mean, the new tour is very much about this age of instant outrage that we live in, and how quick we are. You know, Laura Kunsberg says something that people don't like. Well, sack Laura Kunsberg. You know, I mean, come on. You know, back in the day, if you were offended by something, if you were genuinely offended by something, or you genuinely wanted to get someone sacked, you had to look up their address, write a letter. But now it's just a hashtag now, and that's not good enough. You know.
When you're live, then, and you're not dealing with that backlash, OK, you've got the audience there, but do you find yourself freer? Are you
much freer?
Unleashed?
You can talk about much more controversial subjects that you can't do in a 3-minute clip, because you can persuade. And actually, there is a conversation that you have with an audience, and you can tell if you can deliberately kind of offend and push a boundary and then pull them back again. You can't do that online. So with the live material, I can go much further with it, because you can spend longer, you can have a bit more nuance to it. So you can tackle far more, not dodgy subjects, but you know what I mean? Something that is more controversial. I mean, it would be very easy for me to stand there for an hour and have a go at Boris, have a go at Trump, thank you very much, good night. But that's boring. Why not challenge an audience to kind of go, you're culpable too? Just following people that you like, just reading a newspaper that you agree with, just watching Sky News or the BBC News. It's not good enough. You've got to challenge yourself. So what I do personally, especially as part of my job, I read the Mail, the Guardian, the Telegraph, watch Sky, watch the BBC, have my own view challenged, you know? And sometimes that's good, because you know, you can understand I'm right, or you know why you're right. But sometimes it's quite good to have your view challenged and go, actually, do you know what? I might not be right about that one. And I think, especially with Brexit, we have become so polarised. If you remember in the run-up to the referendum, we weren't that polar. I didn't see many Remainers going, we love the EU, we love it. And now Remainers going, we love the EU, it's the best ever. And exactly the same with, I was a reluctant Remainer, you know? I was sort of, but I don't think people now are that they've decided that you're either Leave or you're either Remain, you're either right, you're either wrong. And there is usually a grey area. Not everyone that voted for Trump is condoning his behaviour. You know, not everyone that voted Brexit was condoning the murder of Joe Cox. And to say otherwise is one, untrue, but deeply, deeply unfair. And also suggests that you don't have an understanding of the real nuance of these particular debates.
In Jonathan Pye, the character, you are berating those who are in power, but
he's
you're
much funnier than me, by the way. I'm getting very serious.
Yes, you're also satirising the journalists who are meant to be holding them to account.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of discussion about this, haven't we, with Dorothy Byrne from Channel 4 talking about we shouldn't be afraid to call politicians out as liars if we think they are lying, and she called Boris Johnson a liar. Lord Hall of the BBC, again, talking about politicians not being willing to take that scrutiny these days. What has changed, do you think?
People are scared of... I can't really talk for journalists, because I'm not a journalist. I can certainly talk about comedians. People are afraid of losing their job, essentially. You know, that there is that. You know, Laura Kunsberg speaks out of turn. People are asking for her to get sacked. That isn't good enough, you know? And certainly in the comedy world, people, I know a lot of comedians privately self-censor a lot because they're scared of losing their job.
Is anything off limits for you?
There isn't a subject that should be off limits. There should be certain targets that are off limits, but that they're just because you can make a joke about racism, that's not to say it would be a racist joke, for example. So you have to think carefully. I would never go out. I don't ever court controversy, and I don't ever go out to offend someone because that's not a pleasant way to behave. But I think we shouldn't be afraid of tackling difficult subjects. One, as journalists, you should call our politicians to account, but also as comedians, laughing about painful things can help you to process that pain, to help you to make sense of the complexities of the world. And I think Pi can sometimes do that by sometimes, just shouting and using some rude words, but also sometimes by...
You will notice that the clips we chose were
You did really well there. You did really well.
Selected.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a daytime audience.
Yeah.
So it's called the Fake News Tour. What can we expect?
Pi is in the doldrums. His career is in the doldrums. He's made a few mistakes in his career, and therefore he is a little bit of a Koonsberg's happened to him. I imagine in the run-up to the start of that show, there has been a hashtag sack Pi. So he's trying to reinvigorate his career by doing a lecture tour about Brexit. Like I say, it's difficult to be up to date, so he is looking back over the last 4 years in Westminster, and not only the last 4 years of Westminster, the last 4 years of his career and his personal life, as his personal life and Brexit collide. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
And good luck with those rewrites as well.
Thank you. Cheers.
Tom Walker, a.k.a. Jonathan Pi there. This is Sky News.